She walked into the busy cafe, clutching her designer handbag, but her confident stride faltered the moment she reached the counter. The deaf billionaire's daughter, used to a life where everything came easy, suddenly felt the world close in around her. All she wanted was a simple cup of coffee, but the words wouldn't come, and the line behind her was growing impatient. Eyes darted nervously, fingers fidgeted, and a quiet tension hung in the air. No one seemed to notice her struggle until him. A single dad, sitting nearby with his toddler on his lap, saw the panic on her face. He didn't hesitate. With gentle, deliberate movements, he began signing. At first, she froze, unsure if he even understood her, but the kindness in his eyes cut through the embarrassment and fear. Slowly, comprehension spread across her face. She realized someone was reaching out, someone willing to bridge the gap in a world that had suddenly become overwhelming. But just as relief started to settle in, a new problem appeared. The barista, busy and impatient, frowned at the interaction, leaving the moment hanging in a fragile balance. Would this small act of kindness succeed, or would the chaos of the cafe crush it before it could bloom? Stay with us, because what happens next isn't just about ordering coffee, it's about connection, courage, and a single act that could change everything for both of them. This intro naturally highlights keywords, like deaf billionaire's daughter, single dad, sign language, coffee, and struggle, while leaving viewers on edge, eager to see the story unfold. The billionaire's daughter had never experienced anything like this. Growing up in a world of wealth and privilege, most problems were solved before she even noticed them. But here, in a crowded cafe with the buzz of orders and clinking cups, she felt vulnerable for the first time. Every glance from the line behind her reminded her that not everyone had patience or understanding. For someone who couldn't speak, her fingers trembled slightly as she tried to communicate, the frustration building with each passing second. Meanwhile, the single dad had a story of his own. Life had taught him patience in ways money never could. Raising his young child alone meant he had learned to communicate beyond words, to see struggles others ignored, and to step in quietly when someone needed help. The sight of her anxiety stirred something instinctive in him, a need to act, to connect, to offer understanding in a world that often overlooked those who couldn't be heard. Around them, the cafe moved on in its usual rhythm, unaware of the quiet drama unfolding. The barista's impatience grew, and murmurs rippled through the line, adding pressure to an already tense moment. The daughter's eyes darted from the man's hands, signing to the barista, unsure if she could trust this stranger or if his help would make things worse. And just as a small smile began to form on her face, signaling the tiniest relief, the barista called out a name that wasn't hers. The moment froze. Would this act of kindness lead to understanding, or would the world outside the signs and gestures crash down before it even began? The next move was uncertain, and both of them knew it. This part deepens the plot, highlighting keywords like billionaire's daughter, single dad, sign language, struggle, and communication. While keeping viewers on edge, her heart raced as the barista's voice cut through the hum of the cafe. The name he called wasn't hers, and suddenly, she felt every eye on her, every impatient glance magnifying her discomfort. The single dad noticed the hesitation in her posture and leaned a little closer, signing faster this time, his movements calm but urgent. "Take your time, you're not alone," he signed, his eyes locking with hers, silently promising support. Behind the counter, the barista frowned, tapping the register impatiently. He was used to fast orders, not pauses filled with gestures and fingers flying through the air. In his mind, this was an inconvenience. But to her, every sign from the man was a lifeline. She realized how little the world around her understood her struggles. Even with people trying their best, this small cafe, ordinary to most, had become a battlefield of patience, understanding, and communication. Meanwhile, the toddler on the dad's lap giggled, tugging at his sleeve, unaware of the tension he was surrounded by. Yet that tiny laugh seemed to lighten the invisible weight, pressing down on both adults. The daughter allowed herself a flicker of hope. Could this simple, unexpected connection change the way she saw the world? Or would the judgmental eyes around them, the barista's rising frustration, and the pressure of everyone waiting turn this moment into embarrassment instead of understanding? In the corner, a regular customer watched silently, curious about the scene. They had seen many interactions in the cafe, but nothing like this. An exchange between two strangers that carried more weight than 100 hurried coffee orders. The air was thick with anticipation. Every gesture mattered. Every second counted. Neither knew what would happen next, but one thing was certain. This encounter was far from ordinary, and its outcome could ripple far beyond a simple cup of coffee. Keywords like billionaire's daughter, single dad, sign language, struggle, and communication continue. Naturally, while keeping suspense high, the cafe seemed to shrink around them as the tension thickened. The billionaire's daughter's hands shook slightly as she tried to mimic the signs he was making, her eyes darting nervously between him and the impatient barista. Every passing second felt heavier, like the world was holding its breath. She had faced challenges before, but never one so public, so intimate in its vulnerability. This wasn't just about ordering coffee, it was about being seen, understood, and respected. The single dad noticed the flush of embarrassment, creeping across her face and tried to steady the moment with a reassuring smile. He signed faster now, his hands a blur, trying to calm the nerves she couldn't voice. "It's okay, we'll get through this," he signed, but the barista's tapping fingers on the counter grew louder, echoing like a countdown. The line behind them murmured impatiently, a wave of pressure crashing down, threatening to drown the fragile connection forming between them. Her mind raced. What if he couldn't help her? What if the barista snapped? Every ounce of composure she had depended on was slipping away. The people around them were oblivious to the storm she felt inside, a mix of fear, frustration, and desperate hope. The toddler giggled again, but this time, it barely reached her ears over the pounding of her heart. The single dad glanced at her, a silent question in his eyes, and she realized she had to trust him. Every sign, every movement mattered now more than ever. Just as she made a tentative motion toward understanding, the barista leaned forward, voice sharp and impatient. The world seemed to hold a single breath, waiting for what would happen next. Would the small act of kindness survive the mounting tension, or would it collapse under the pressure of judgment and impatience? The moment hung on a knife's edge, and nothing was certain. This section heightened suspense and tension, using keywords like billionaire's daughter, single dad, sign language, struggle, and communication, building directly toward the climax. Just as she began to feel a flicker of hope, the cafe door swung open with a sudden gust, drawing everyone's attention. A sharp voice cut through the tension, and a man in a crisp suit strode in, scanning the room with an intensity that made the billionaire's daughter freeze. Her heart sank. She recognized him instantly, her father's personal assistant, always hovering, always watching. And now, he was here, in this small cafe. In the middle of a moment she thought was private. The single dad noticed the shift immediately. The playful energy of the toddler on his lap vanished as he sensed the change in the atmosphere. The barista stiffened, unsure of how to react to this new presence, and the line behind them grew restless again. The assistant's eyes locked on the daughter, narrowing as if he could sense something was amiss. The stakes suddenly felt higher. This was no longer just about ordering coffee, it was about her image, her reputation, and the scrutiny of someone who judged every move she made. She glanced at the single dad, panic flickering in her eyes. Could she trust him to help now, with someone watching so closely? And why had he come here? Was this a coincidence or a warning? Every sign he tried to convey became more urgent, but her hands hesitated, frozen by the pressure of authority looming over her. Even the cafe seemed to hold its breath. The tension, once private, now spilled into the open, making every gesture, every glance, every silent word feel loaded with consequences. Would the small act of kindness survive this unexpected intrusion, or was it about to be crushed by forces far beyond a simple coffee line? The moment teetered on the edge, and the outcome was more uncertain than ever. The tension in the cafe reached its peak. The billionaire's daughter's hands trembled as the assistant's sharp gaze pinned her in place, and the impatient barista's tapping seemed louder than ever. The single dad took a deep breath, steadying himself, and signed with urgency and clarity, "Focus on me, forget the rest. We can do this together." His calm confidence cut through the chaos like a lifeline. Slowly, she began to respond, her fingers moving with his guidance, each sign a small victory against the panic threat.